I'm Teisha with Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, March the 19th, 2014. Israel's Air Force hit several targets in Syria early this morning in response to yesterday's attack on an IDF jeep in which 4 soldiers were injured, 1 critically, when a roadside bomb along Israel's border with Syria was detonated. The IAF targeted military command posts, artillery batteries, and a training base on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights in the retaliatory strike today. The Syrian army said that 1 Syrian soldier was killed and 7 others were wounded in the airstrikes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that aggressive action was sometimes necessary in order to maintain quiet in the north.
אנחנו פוגעים באלה שפוגעים בנו. אנחנו גם מסכלים כמיטב יכולתנו העברת אמצעי לחימה בים, באוויר וביבשה.
Israel's Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon said Israel held Syrian President Bashar Assad responsible for what happens in his country, and that if he continued to cooperate with terrorists who want to hurt Israel, he will pay a heavy price. Israel, meanwhile, was reinforcing its army positions in the Golan Heights and closely monitoring the situation. A Palestinian teenager was shot and killed by IDF forces today after he tried to sabotage the security fence in the West Bank near Hebron and ignored IDF orders to stop. The youth was one of several Palestinians who were reportedly cutting the fence, trying to breach it. An IDF spokeswoman said IDF soldiers issued verbal warnings and shot in the air, but that these measures were ignored. She said the soldiers began a full arrest procedure. After all means were exhausted, the soldiers shot toward the main suspect at his lower body and a hit was identified. She said an Israeli medical team took him to an Israeli hospital where he later died of his wounds. There were conflicting reports about the identity of the teen, but he's thought to be Yusuf Shawamra, who was reportedly 15 or 16 years old.
Naval Special Forces.
The Jerusalem Post reports that once again, the United States is responding strongly to controversial remarks made by Israeli Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon. Speaking at Tel Aviv University yesterday, Ya'alon said that the U.S. was demonstrating weakness on the international front, like in Ukraine, as well as in negotiations with Iran. Haaretz quoted Ya'alon as saying, "If your image is feebleness, it doesn't pay in the world." He said nobody will replace the United States as global policeman. I hope the United States comes to its senses. If it doesn't, it will challenge the world order, and the United States is the one that will suffer. The White House said it was stunned at the defense minister's remarks. A senior administration official told the Jerusalem Post last night, "We were shocked by Moshe Ya'alon's comments, which seriously call into question his commitment to Israel's relationship with the United States." Moreover, this is part, it said, of a disturbing pattern in which the defense minister disparages the U.S. administration and insults its most senior officials, referring there to comments made recently by Ya'alon criticizing the motivations for peace efforts of U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Haaretz reports that former Palestinian negotiator Nabil Shaath is denying reports that he said the Palestinians would consider recognizing Israel as a Jewish state at the end of peace talks. As we reported to you yesterday, Shaath reportedly said that the Palestinians might be open to discussing the issue of Jewish recognition after all other issues had been worked out. But today, Shaath denied saying his comments were misinterpreted. In fact, he said the Palestinians wouldn't even discuss recognition because it would reinforce the occupation and endanger the right of return for Palestinian refugees. And staying with Shaath, the Palestinian official said today that the Palestinians would turn to the United Nations for international recognition if Israel does not follow through with its upcoming planned release of Palestinian security prisoners. On Monday, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas had told U.S. President Obama that the release of the last group of prisoners would show Israel's, quote, seriousness towards the peace talks. And Shaath said today that the Palestinians would, quote, immediately resume their UN campaign if Israel cancels the planned release. He said, "We committed to not applying to the UN agencies, and Israel committed to release 104 prisoners in 4 batches. That was the deal. If Israel breaches it, we will too." Israel's Deputy Defense Minister Dani Danon said he would quit the government if it goes ahead with the last round of Palestinian prisoner release, which is set for the end of this month. Danon wrote in a letter to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu that if Israel approves the last release, he will submit his letter of resignation, saying that those who support the release, claiming it was worthwhile to advance peace, but that the Palestinians have taken advantage of this. As we reported to you yesterday, Israel's Justice Minister Tzipi Livni cast some doubt on the release as well. She stated that it was not automatic and that the Palestinians needed to commit to extending peace talks with Israel before a release could go through. Israel had agreed to the release of 104 long-serving Palestinian prisoners who were involved in deadly terror attacks. The last round is set for March the 28th. Today marks the 2-year anniversary of the deadly shooting in Toulouse, France at the Ozar HaTorah Jewish Day School that left a rabbi and 3 children dead. On March the 19th of 2012, a gunman later identified as Muhammad Mara fired at a crowd of parents and children outside the Jewish school, killing 30-year-old Yonatan Sandler, his 2 children, 6-year-old Aryeh and 3-year-old Gabrielle, and a 3rd child, 8-year-old Miriam Monsenego, the daughter of the school's principal. In the week prior, Mara also shot and killed 3 paratroopers of North African origin. Mara was later killed by police. 2 years after the attack, European Jewish Congress head Moshe Kantor said that physical attacks against Jews continue in Europe, and he urged the European community to take the necessary precautions to make sure that such a tragedy as Toulouse does not happen again. Kantor said there remains a huge motivation by extremists to harm or murder Jews regardless of their age or beliefs. Referring to a recent report by the EU's Fundamental Rights Agency, Kantor said that most Jews in Europe fear to visibly identify as Jews for fear of such attacks, and that society and governments must fight back with the full force of the law and by providing the necessary security for Jewish communities. The founder of a college in Israel that aims to meet the needs of ultra-Orthodox men and women is being awarded the Israel Prize for Lifetime Achievement. Adina Bar Shalom, who founded the Haredi College in Jerusalem, will be honored for advancing higher education within the ultra-Orthodox sector. Israel's Education Minister Shai Peron said yesterday that Bar Shalom had made groundbreaking achievements to bridge social divisions and to advance the integration of a Haredi lifestyle with societal openness to higher education. Bar Shalom is the daughter of the late Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, longtime spiritual leader of the Shas Party and former chief Sephardic rabbi of Israel. Also being recognized for lifetime achievement is Avi Naor, founder of Or Yarok, the Association for Safer Driving in Israel. The Israel Prize is the country's highest civilian honor. The awards will be given out on Israel Independence Day in May. And turning to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Wednesday, March the 19th, at 6:30, interviews from the recent AIPAC National Policy Conference in Washington, D.C., featuring leading Israeli media expert Amos Harel. Then at 8 o'clock, president and founder of the Reut Institute, Gidi Grinstein, talks at the recent Limud conference about Zionism and Judaism. Then at 9 o'clock, Mark Golub is joined on L'chaim by Amir Shlomian, founder and director of Ein Bustan, a Jewish and Arab kindergarten in Israel. That's tonight here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, March the 19th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.